All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Sasquatch Watch Radio. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2024, and I'm going to introduce my new co-host.
Hi, everybody.
Gary.
Hello, Billy.
Man, I'm glad you agreed to come on as a co-host.
Hey, anytime I can help out, pal.
I love it. Couldn't have asked for a better one to have on here, I can tell you.
Bro, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And then without further ado, we're going to get our guest on here. Melissa Hovey-Larsen, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys doing?
Hello,
doing
Mel.
Just fine. So glad that you were able to join us tonight.
Yeah, I don't do interviews.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
Yeah.
But we're glad that you're doing this one.
Oh, anything for you and Billy.
That's because we're special.
That's right. You guys are my family.
Oh, well, it's good to have you on. I know Gary's been doing his homework. He's apparently been working on some questions for you.
Oh, yeah. Put you in the hot seat.
Oh, boy. Yeah. All right,
Bring it on.
here. Let me see here. All right, so we got some in here, but we don't have them in the chat yet. So, but I can see we got some folks in. So, anyway. All right, Gary, I'm going to let you shoot. I already warned Melissa that I already made AI make some songs for her that she's going to hear later.
They're awesome. I'm going to tell you right now.
Wait, from what?
Remember I told you I was going to have artificial intelligence make a couple songs about you.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. Okay.
Yeah. So,
You should be. They're good.
Okay.
I'm impressed, for real. I'd like to start off and just kind of read off some of Mel's credits here. She was the founder of the American Bigfoot Society. That's the ABS. And she was president for quite a while. Mel, you still the president?
Yeah, but we don't really do anything anymore. At least not with the organization.
At one point in time, Mel not only was the president and the founder of the American Bigfoot Society, she also appeared on Monster Quest. That was on season 1, episode 5. She was part of an all-female team that went out in search of some evidence, and she also hosted her own radio show at one time. So she had all this going on all at once, and that's pretty impressive. That takes a lot of time to get all this done, and I know Mel pretty good, and I'm just going to tell you, if anybody can do it, that's her. She has the drive.
Yep.
I'd like to think that. Actually, it was 2 radio shows. Let's Talk Bigfoot, which was a long time ago, and then The Gray Area. So, yeah, with Monica.
Yeah, I remember that's when that was the first time I'd ever heard of Talkshoe.
Yeah.
Is when you started that show.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Teresa Hall she set everything up because I am not tech savvy at all. So, yeah, and I just showed up and asked a bunch of questions and tried to make a show.
Yep. Yeah, and then after that was The Gray Area with Monica.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Monica in years.
Yeah. Well, she's doing okay. She's still down there in Texas.
I know you've done a lot of research in Texas too, haven't you?
How long was I there? Went to Texas in 2005, and I left in 2008. So, and then subsequent years of research after I left Texas. So, yeah.
Yeah, you've been all over the United States. I know you've been in Washington. You come here in Virginia, which I'm going to throw that out there too. And I've said this several times on this show, but the multi-group investigation that we did here in Virginia, where we had you guys, we had Toby Tolman, we had, how many groups did we have, Billy? Was it 5?
5, yep.
5 groups, and that was probably one of the smoothest run operations I've ever seen. Nobody was fighting. Everybody got along great. Everybody was kind of one mind. We're here to do this, and this is what we're going to do. And I have never seen, the Bigfoot community is kind of fickle.
Yeah. To say it lightly.
Yeah. But that went way beyond what I thought it would be. Way beyond what I thought it would be. And there's people that I met there for the first time that to this day I have a lot of respect for.
Well, Billy and I wanted to set up something, first of all, because this was a good spot. I mean, this was his witness. But we wanted to do something with other groups because of the size of the property and to prove that it could actually happen. And people could get along, do the research, and work together. That was the whole point of the operation. I mean, and then hopefully come up with some information for the actual landowners. So that was the whole point.
Yeah.
And we proved it could be done.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, it was beautiful. Just to be honest with you, it was cool. That's probably one of the coolest things that I've done.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It really was.
Got a question for you, Mel, right off the bat. Do you believe that Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, is a flesh and blood animal, or do you think it's more?
I think it's a flesh and blood animal until science can tell me different. That's always been my answer, and I'm like, show me, like the show me state. I'm the show me state. You got to show me the proof that it's more than just flesh and blood.
Yeah, I agree. With it being a flesh and blood animal, do you believe in a kill or a no kill policy?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. My mind says leave it alone, or my heart says leave it alone. My mind says we need one for proof. We need
I agree.
one for study. We need, as much as I hate to say it, in order to show science that this thing actually exists, you're going to have to, throw the body down in front of them. But then my only problem with that is, then, if you first take out a male, science is going to say, well, we don't know anything about a female. And then you bring them a female, and science is going to say, well, we don't know anything about babies. So, I mean, how far do we want to go with this, to prove that it exists? So, yeah. I guess that's going to have to be a question everybody has to ask themselves.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I've struggled with that question myself. And I'm going to kind of be the devil's advocate here and say if it exists, which I saw one, I know it exists. But if it exists, you're dealing with probably one of the most endangered animals on the planet. Yeah. And then now you're talking about taking 1 out, 2 out, 3 out, 4 out, whatever, in order to prove that it exists. And that may cause irreparable harm to the breeding population that exists, right, especially in a small area.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, well, it was so hard for you to find the first one. Can you find it, the second and the third? So, I mean, unless they're actually willing to leave the lab and go out to uncomfortable positions, in places in the woods. I mean, it's like I said, this is going to have to be a decision I think that everybody needs to make for themselves. And I think that we need to stop making people feel bad about it.
Did you see what Jay said, Melissa?
A bag of Cheetos.
Yeah, Jay Fitz. He's awesome.
There's an idea nobody thought. No, I'm sure somebody thought of it. So
I'm just going to say right off the bat, if you're sitting on a stump with a bag of Cheetos, you might get Sasquatch to come in, but more than likely, you may get the creature seeker to come by.
Yeah, true. Well, I don't know. That may have to be prime rib or T-bone.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's a steak eating dude right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Melissa, if you have a chance, I talked to you about this earlier before we come on. You had a article posted a while back where you was talking about a report that you'd heard about a boy in Texas. Would you like to go into that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty interesting report. And I think that the report, and because people always ask me the question, do you think that Bigfoot is aggressive? And I think that this report highlights the ability for this animal to make the decision, to make a choice. and it was a young boy was with a group of friends coming home from a party at night, and they were in the car, and they seen it was a big white Bigfoot, and the kid got all excited and jumped out of the car and started chasing after the animal. Well, the animal got to a fence and just stepped right over it, and the boy got up to the fence, started climbing up the fence, and the Bigfoot turned around and grabbed him underneath of his armpits, just picked him up off the fence and put him down on the ground. And I think that was a warning. You had your fun, you got to chase me, now you need to go away. This is, I'm trying to be nice to you right now. I don't think that every Bigfoot is aggressive, and I would strongly argue that report is a good example of that, because that animal could have picked up that kid and thrown him and hurt him bad, could have killed him, but it chose not to. So there's got to be a level of intelligence going on, and that tells me that this animal is capable of making decisions. So put that in your little bag of thoughts if you come across one of these things.
I'm going to tell you, when I read the article that had this report in it, the first thing that came to my mind was the Lord of the Ring movie. Where you think about Gandalf, where he stands there and he says, "You shall not pass."
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what happened right there.
Yeah.
You have come as far as you are going to come.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah.
But I agree with you 100%. Not every encounter is going to be an aggressive encounter, and not every encounter is going to be a passive encounter. It's the same with bears.
Right.
It's best to keep a healthy distance. I got to give the kid credit because about the time he got up close to that thing, where close enough to where it turned around and grabbed him, that requires two movements. That's a physical movement and a bowel movement. You fill your pants up, you run.
Yeah, I thought about it.
Yeah, that
probably make him put him down a lot quicker too.
Oh yeah. And I'm here to tell you what, that couldn't have happened. Few seconds, you reckon? Pick him up, set him back down on the ground. I'd say to that kid that seemed like a lifetime.
I'm sure.
A lifetime. Another thing I want to talk about is a report that actually happened to you while we was all on this big expedition that we was just talking about. And it was the red eyes at the pond, which has fascinated me ever since it happened.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, well, what do you want to know? I mean, you want me to tell the whole story, or?
I mean, you can just give us the cliff notes if you want to.
Okay, well, I was given a radio interview to Bob Coyne at the time because he wanted to do an interview about what was going on at this site with all the different groups and stuff. And I think Billy had just finished giving his part of the interview, and he handed the phone off to me. And people were still at base camp, and that's where I was, just a little bit away from base camp. Then I started walking down towards this pond. There was two man-made ponds on the property. And I'm standing down there, and I hate talking about this part of it, but I'm standing down there, and I get this, I started thinking to myself, I can't see base camp. And if I can't see base camp, then that means they can't see me. And I felt really nervous about that. So I started walking back up the hill. And as soon as I got to about the top of the hill, maybe a few feet past it, I turned to my right to the tree line. And there it just stood. There it was. And it was two glowing eyes in the dark. And it was, I was stunned. I just didn't even know what to do. I just stood there and looked at it. And I'm on the phone with Bob Coyne. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you to this day what he said to me, what questions he asked me. I started this circle talking about just anything that would come to mind, because I was trying not to do anything so that it would go away, to make it leave or, to do anything. Because I was trying to find somebody, trying to flag down somebody at base camp to get their attention, but I didn't want to, make too much of a fuss, because then, people on this listening to the show would say, oh, she's making a big deal about this. And so I did the best I could to just study what I was staring at, what I could see. And there was some marine lights that were set up by two other researchers down below the eye shine. And at one point, I did see something pass in front of the marine lights, and I didn't know what they were until somebody told me that later. But I seen it pass by, in front of the marine lights. So it was interested in those lights. And the only thing I could think of that it could have been was an arm. And but then I stood there and I watched it, trying to get anybody's attention, and it just was not having any luck. So then finally, Bob Point said to me that he was going to end this part of our interview, and he was going to want to talk to Creature Seeker. And but then I was standing there watching it as he was saying this to me, and then just the two eyes in unison, just one right after the other, turned to its right and was gone. And I was like, holy crap. So then I quick got to Creature Seeker, and then I gave him the phone, and then I ran over to Billy, and I was like, hey, Billy, I need to talk to you. And Billy was in the middle of something else. They were planning something. And I was like, Billy, I need to talk to you. They were so busy. And finally, I looked at Billy. I think I even grabbed him, and I said, Billy, I need to talk to you right now. And we both just kind of looked at each other, and I told him what I had seen. But, I mean, it was so dark. I mean, even if there were footprints, we wouldn't have seen anything. But a bunch of us did go down there with flashlights and stuff when we looked around. And when we got to the property, Billy wanted us to listen to the stories of the homeowner and what they witnessed. And I purposely got up and walked away, because I don't want to be influenced. I want, if something happens, I want my own, I want this to be me, not what I heard from them. So I got up and walked away. But it wasn't until after that, when I gave Billy the, approximate height of of where I seen it in the tree line, that Billy told me that matched up with the property owner. It's about 7.5 feet tall. And it was 150 feet from where I was, Billy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we measured it out to the next day. And it turned everything I thought right on its head. I mean, I still think about it a lot. And like I told you guys, Wayne and I were just talking about it the other day. So, yeah, it's when something like that happens, you don't forget about it. And I can't say for sure that it was a Bigfoot, but whatever it was something I've never seen in the woods before. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a follow-up with that too, and this kind of upset some people. But do you think what you saw was eye shine, or do you think those eyes may have been bioluminescent?
Well, I can't answer that for sure, because I don't know the back of the marine light. But I can tell you that the eyes were just, I've never seen, without putting a light, a flashlight into the eyes of an animal, I've just never seen eye shine like that. I mean, it was, and the color was just incredible. It was like the center where your pupil is, the center was like just a brilliant red, just dark, brilliant red. But then as it went out to the edges, it got lighter and lighter and lighter till the edge was like a yellowish orange color. It was just amazing. But it almost felt like it was being like it was coming from the back of the eye, like it was coming outward, not
Like it
and
was
I
being
know-
projected.
huh?
Like it was being projected.
Yeah. I mean and I know that sounds weird. I know it does. But
I know when I first started, researching and investigating things, I was a no BS kind of guy. I think back then everybody called it the woo or whatever. And
yeah.
I'm gonna be 100% honest. Nobody has one locked up in the barn that they're studying to see if its eyes glow or if its eyes shine. Nobody knows. And I think you have to take everything that everybody says on a level because that's their experience. That's what they saw. That's what they felt. That's what, in their mind, that's what happened. And, the red eyes, I remember when it happened, we saw a lot of strange stuff while we was there.
Yeah.
And I saw some stuff that shook me up.
Yeah.
And, just to be honest, Mel was pretty cool the whole time until that happened. And I had never seen her nervous or tore up or anything. And I was like, oh, man, there's some stuff going on here.
Yeah.
So I knew, something was happening.
Yeah. The whole time I've done this, I mean, I've never, been witness to anything like this before. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I, for the most part, tried to stay still because at one point while I was standing there, I was thinking to myself, that thing is really close, whatever that is. I mean, and it could have, if it decided it wanted to charge at me and grab me or just take me out, it could have long before anybody probably would have realized what was going on. And
Yep.
that thought alone stayed with me and still stays with me today. And I've never had that thought being out in the woods before. That was never even a thought on my mind, about my own personal safety. But that, seeing that, put it in my head, what are we doing? So, I mean, I'm over that part of it now, I think, but, I still, it still gets me when I think about it, because it was pretty intense. Because, I mean, just standing there staring at each other for so long. And it's just like, what the hell is going on? What is this thing? I wish I'd had a better look at it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we were talking to Jay Fritz last week, and he had brought up the one that he saw, Melissa. He was out in the woods, and I put his text up. And it was chasing pigs, and he's pretty sure that the thing never even saw him. So, because he said he was pretty, hidden by brush, but that thing was chasing them pigs.
Well, we've got a lot of reports. This animal chasing, farm animals, pigs, chickens is a big one.
Yeah.
Chickens is big. So I mean, it wouldn't shock me. It's not surprising. I'm glad that it didn't see him.
Yeah.
But,
And you was talking about the fear that you had there, and I try to tell that's something that I try to tell everybody. When you're researching, some people are strictly don't bring a firearm, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. I say do whatever makes you comfortable because there are more dangerous things in the woods than Bigfoot. So
yeah.
my advice to anybody is what bear spray, carry bear spray. If you feel comfortable with a firearm, carry a firearm. Because there's more, it's all fun and games till you walk up on a mother black bear with a set of cubs.
Yep.
Yeah. But I got to be honest, standing there in the moment, if I had a sidearm, would I have drawn it? No, I would not have. Because my first thought would have been, you can't see it clearly. You have no idea where you're shooting. And if you don't hit the right spot, this thing is going to come at you. So
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I would have taken a shot.
I have another quick question for you, which leads into I've got a niece and a nephew that are watching the show tonight, and I'd like to give them a little shout out. I'd like to shout out to my nephew Maddox. Hey, Maddox. And Emmy. Uncle Gary loves y'all. But my question is, do you have any advice for young people that are interested, and especially young women, interested in investigating Sasquatch?
Oh boy. Well, listen to your uncle. Stay away from the larger community. Do what you think is right. Do what feels right to you. Learn how to cast properly, which is a big thing for me. Just follow your own instinct. Don't take the advice of the larger community, because I think girls especially think different than guys, and I think that could be helpful, in trying to solve this mystery. Because when I got involved in it, there was very few women, and when the woman did come up with an idea, she was basically, patted down. But women can come up with some pretty unique ideas, and if your niece or nephew want to get involved in this, I say go for it, and don't let anybody stop you. Listen to the people who you think know the most about the woods, especially the people who know about the woods. So pay attention to those people. But keep everything you find, write it down, make notes, and just have fun. Have fun with it too. Just go out and enjoy nature too, because you know what, you might discover something else. So in the process.
Yep.
So
yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Did you see that Mick put up there, Gary?
I did. Yeah, and I'm 100% with that. I mean, like I said, that's their experience. You know what I'm saying? That's what they felt. And last week I kind of said something. I think I may have upset Jay, but I wasn't trying to. He was talking about that was his experience and it wasn't a story, because it really happened to him.
Right.
And I didn't mean it that way, but when it comes to investigating, you have to take every bit of evidence that you get. And like I said, some people try to steer away from the woo. They don't have glowing eyes. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't do this. I don't necessarily agree with everything that they say, but there are some things that I cannot explain.
Yeah.
And there's no way to explain it without maybe saying it could be.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't have one tied up in the barn. I can't tell you that, his eyes glow or they don't glow. But, I agree 100% with what you're saying, especially, with if you're going out, I think, and I was really fortunate because I got hooked up with Billy and you guys, and I had a lot of people there with me that had a lot of experience. And I learned a lot from just being around you all. And the thing that I learned probably the most was that you take every piece of evidence that you come across, and that is to that person a fact. No matter how strange, no matter, whatever, that is a fact. And, my own personal sighting, I can't explain why it chose that day, to walk across the road in front of us. But it did, and like I said, when it comes to investigating something, you have to take all that you have. Even the strangest things have a grain of truth in them.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I want to ask Melissa, being from Ohio, which is where you have currently lit, what do you think about Salt Fork State Park?
Oh boy. Oh, you're gonna get me in trouble. It's an interesting area. Wayne and I were camping up there once with another couple, and with a friend of ours from the PNW, and we definitely had something happen there in the camp. We couldn't tell you if it was a bear, but it actually pulled on the door handles of our car, and we could hear it trying to open the car doors. So I don't know what would do that, but Salt Fork also has an issue with the fact that they own a Bigfoot costume that they like to bring out during, conferences and things like that. So, I mean, this is where your evidence collection becomes very important.
Yep.
If you're a serious researcher and you have a sighting or you come across the print or something like that, knowing how to properly cast and how to properly collect evidence, and I say those two things very seriously, is really important. I mean, you really need to know how to do those things properly. And because that's, short of a body, that's all we have, is evidence, whether it be biological or cast, So that's, I don't mind self-work. I think there's good possibility, that it would be there. It has everything necessary for the animal to survive. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. But I get nervous when people say they took a picture of a Bigfoot at self-work. So, because I know that costume exists. So,
I'm going to go with what Bronze Age John says here. He says there's too many people now, and I think he has a good point. Me and Billy's talked about this in shows before, with the rise of the Bigfoot shows and things on TV. I have a hard time now accepting vocalizations because everybody's in the woods hollering.
Yep.
Right.
Wood knocking to each other.
Yep. I mean, it's, and I really do believe that it's a form of communication. The wood knocks, the howls, everything else. But, when you have, and I know Salt Fork it's an impressive park. It's large.
Yeah.
And at times it is completely inundated with people.
Yep.
And it constantly gets talked about.
Yep. For sure.
Which brings in more and more.
All right. Melissa, are you ready for a couple songs about you?
Oh boy. Can't wait.
All right. Gary, make the call. Do you want to start with country or rock?
Well, I'm a country guy.
All right, so we're gonna start with the country song. All right, here we go, Melissa. This is your country song about you.
In the heart of the forest where the tall pines sway, there lived a girl named Melissa. With a wanderlust, they say, she heard tales of a creature, elusive and grand, a mythical beast called Sasquatch, roaming the land. With her backpack and lantern, Melissa set out through the dense thickets. She had no doubt she'd find the hidden treasure, prove the skeptics wrong, casting footprints in the wilderness where it belongs. Oh, Melissa, fearless seeker of the wild, chasing shadows in the moonlight like a daring child. In her heart, all longing to uncover the truth, Melissa Hovey's on a quest for Sasquatch's footprints to soothe.
There you go, Melissa.
That was good.
That was sweet.
That was good.
I'm sure there's probably a lot of people who would argue with, whether or not I'm that nice, but okay.
Now keep in mind, as we all know, AI scours Google, scours all the information it can find.
Oh, geez.
All I do is put a few little simple words in there, and it does the rest. So.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so here's the rock version.
Okay.
Through the trees she walks alone, Melissa Hovey, searching for the unknown. In the heart of the wilderness she roams. chasing shadows, she's never felt so at home. Her soul consumed by the mystery, a quest for truth that sets her spirit free. With each step she casts her fate in the silence of the forest she contemplates. Footprints in the wilderness, she seeks a glimpse of Sasquatch. The legend speaks, her heart beats louder with every sound in the wild. A sanctuary is found.
All right, that was your rock version, Melissa.
I like that one. That was pretty cool.
It's actually kind of scary how they come up with that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. And it's true,
One of the-
there's no
one of these
place I'd rather
days-
be.
One of these days, I hope I don't interview somebody that's got a, kind of strange past. I'll say,
OnlyFans?
well, I guess I better delete that song.
And OnlyFans. Okay. Eventually it'll happen to you.
Oh, man.
I think one of my proudest moments in the whole time that I've worked, investigating Bigfoot and things like that was I found a print when we was on that multi-group expedition, and it was a good print.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of proud to say that I had, Melissa Hovey-Larsen cast that print for me. And, there's not a lot of people that can say, they've had casts done by somebody that knows as much as Melissa does about casting tracks. I can't do it. We'll be honest with you. Me and Plaster of Paris are not friends.
Well, I think the only thing that was difficult was the fact that there was water in the track, if you remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
So, otherwise, I mean, if you'd just done it a few times, you'd be just fine. So it's not really as difficult as some people make it out to be, but there are some things that are important, to the process. But I love doing that with Gary. I mean, that was probably one of my most memorable moments. That was a lot of fun.
No,
I was
just
excited at how excited you were.
when it comes to Plaster of Paris, I end up wearing more of that stuff than I get put anywhere else. I don't know. Somehow I get it in my hair. It's in my hands. It's on my clothes.
Didn't you take that home?
No, I think. Didn't we send it somewhere to get looked at? I don't remember now. That's been probably 13 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't really remember now, but I think we sent it somewhere to be looked at. Did we send it to Dr. Meldrum?
I don't think so.
I can't remember. You're asking somebody that's probably on the edge of Alzheimer's or something.
I don't feel like the Lone Ranger.
I thought we gave it to you.
No,
Well, that's it.
because I remember telling everybody, hey, this belongs to the whole group. It's not just me, because I wasn't just out there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a group effort, and I'm all about a group effort. I think that builds bonds that can't be broken.
Yeah. I know when I did my first cast, we found it was trying to remember who I had with me. I think I had Tom Lancaster with me. And we didn't have a drop of plaster on us. So we covered that thing up the best we could, and ran into town. Well, we were in a small town, so they had this little hardware store. And all they had for plaster of Paris was in these little small containers. Let me tell you what, that wasn't cheap buying each of them small containers.
Yeah.
because the small ones, you know, they add up.
Yeah.
Quick.
And real quick. And then we had to go buy a bunch of $1 jugs of water. But at least we got it casted.
Right, and the coolest thing about that was, you know, we was dead up in the middle of that swamp. It was so soft you couldn't stand there.
Uh-huh.
Everybody was sinking.
Yeah.
And here comes Melissa with her bag, and she whips out a turkey baster, and she's sucking the water out of it and all this other stuff. And I was like, who would have thought of that? Who, honestly to God, would have thought to put a turkey baster in a kit to remove water from a track?
Well, but it was really small, first of all, and you have to be very careful when you do this. But before we continue, I want to say hi, Kelly. Kelly was with us on that expedition.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah. But yeah, you got to be really careful when you're doing that. But it can be done. So that's something you should practice before you actually hit up a real track that you want to cast that's, you know, filled with water. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a different kind of cast, JC. We're not talking about that kind of cast. I don't want that kind of cast. Kelly says she remembers those leeches in that water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big ones.
What? Leeches.
Yeah, we had it was a partial print one day on that expedition. That was the night that something had smacked the back of my Jeep.
Okay.
While we was out there. And there was all it was just like it stuck its foot into the bank and stepped up. And I remember we built a little dam so we could get plaster or whatever in there. And there was, I bet there was 50 leeches shot over the top of that dam. And they was twice as long as my finger. And I thought to myself, I was standing in the middle of that daggone creek yesterday.
Yeah, they just wanted to ride, Gary.
Oh yeah, and you know, a couple donations of blood and yeah. Politicians, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, you can find them at the bottom of the water, can't you?
Yeah, most of the time. The good ones anyway.
Man.
In the years that you have done casting, what's the largest number of castable tracks you've ever found?
Bigfoot tracks?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I mean, any kind of track, really, when you think about it.
Well, the only potential Bigfoot track I've ever casted was the one that you found, Gary. But I've casted elk tracks. I've casted raccoon tracks. I mean, the only one I was looking for and I've never been able to find is a bear track. I've casted deer tracks, dog tracks. I mean, you know, just trying to get, you know, experience in casting. People tracks, you know, their own, well, what's his name? Jeff. He had a pair of those toe shoes at Southport. And he stepped in the mud for me, and I casted his foot tracks with those, with that, was my method. But, I mean, I've only casted that one track. So, otherwise, I mean, that's it.
I do have a bear track that was cast. It was on the expedition up to Dolly Sods.
Dolly Sods.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Billy casted that one.
Yep.
And I think Bruce was there, and I don't remember who all else. There was quite a few of them.
There was quite a few. JC was there.
Yeah.
My brother Jason was there. Adam Fry, I believe, was there.
Yep.
So yeah, we had
Adam Fry from 100 Days Alone.
Yeah, exactly. Y'all ever get a chance, you need to watch that show. That's interesting. Oh, Adam Fry made it to the screen.
I still have 2 boxes of the casts that I did that were from my casting experiment to try to determine if dermal ridges can be caused by casting, and if so, what what could be causing them. So I have a couple boxes of those. That took me about, I think, 6 months to a year to figure out how to create thermal ridges. So that was the process.
It takes a lot of time to learn stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure does.
Billy, that's all the questions that I had. If you have anything.
I do. Melissa, what's your thoughts on migration? Do you think the creatures migrate?
Well, I would think they'd have to, don't you? You know, I mean,
to be honest, I here lately, I've really been starting to think that these things are just around and they're opportunists, and I don't know that they venture very far. I think that that they have, you know, Steve Coles has kind of talked about how he believes they have a home range.
Yeah, that I agree with. Yeah,
and they'll go out so far, you know, to get food or whatever, but they generally stay in that range.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I wouldn't say, when I say migration, that's pretty much what I'm talking about. You know, because I don't think that a Bigfoot in Wisconsin is going to travel to Texas. You know.
Right.
So, I mean, that's quite a change in geography and climate. And
my God, some of the things they'd have to cross to get there.
Oh Lord.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And you know, the migration thing, that kind of feeds into something too that I fall back on quite a bit from Boggy Creek. They always follow the creeks. Well, when you take an animal that size, a human being needs at least 1 gallon of water a day to survive. So I don't think they can venture too far from a permanent water source without risking, you know, running out of water. And I don't think they can do that.
Right.
Yeah. That's all right, Pete. We know you might be having some lousy cell phone, but we still love you.
Yeah. Hi, Pete.
Here's another one. Do you think a discovery is going to happen in our lifetime, Melissa? We've been doing this a long time.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. I mean, from what I'm seeing in the community, the larger community, I'm afraid probably not. You know, because people are veering off into things that we have zero chance of proving. I mean, we can't even prove that the animal exists. And then we have people, a lot of people now, where before, I mean, you didn't talk about that stuff. We were trying to focus on whether or not it was here. You know, is it alive? What are people seeing? And I think a lot of good researchers are being distracted, you know, by this other group of people. And first we have to, you know, we have to prove that it exists. I don't know how we're going to do that. And then, but then when you want to throw in things that right now science can't even explain, how you know, where do you go with that? I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin. And I have this conversation with my husband all the time. You know, it's like, but what do you do with that? You know, you can theorize all you want, you can hypothesize, but I mean, can we just prove it exists first? You know, for the witnesses. You know, that's my main goal. It always has been.
So, as you remember, we've heard many times that there are certain people that have habituated this creature. What's your thoughts on habituation?
I think it's dangerous. I mean, to each his own. If you've got family living in a house and you're thinking about doing this, I think it's a bad idea. Because just like any other animal, you take away its constant food supplies, and it's going to get upset. I mean, when Wayne and I lived in an apartment years ago, he started feeding the squirrels peanuts outside of our patio door. And initially he thought it was really cute. And I was like, I think this is a bad idea. And and one day we woke up. There was, we woke up late. There was no peanuts outside for the squirrels. We woke up to a screen door, patio door, with multiple squirrels hanging from the screen.
Yep.
And just imagine how much worse it could be. If you're feeding, possibly 800-pound animal, and then just suddenly stop. I mean, how is that animal going to react? If you're the only source of food that it has for that day, and it's come to depend on it, what do you think it's going to do? So I mean, I think it's a bad idea, but you're, you want to make that decision for you and your family.
Yeah.
All right.
And see,
Go ahead. Gary.
I was just going to say, if I can elaborate a little bit on that, when it comes to habituation like that, a feeding station is probably one of the worst ideas that you can do for any type of wild animal, let alone something that's large enough to, tear your arms off. But it's all fun. It's all fun. You put food out, they come in close, you can see them, blah, 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 whatever, and they get habituated. They get used to that. They become dependent upon that. Now, what happens if you go on a week's vacation?
Yeah.
And now you have 3 800 to 1,200 pound, bipedal primates that have been dependent upon your little feeding station that now don't have it. They are going to tear up Jack.
Yeah.
And I think it removes a lot of the natural fear too, and that's with any animal.
Yeah.
My stepbrother, it's a good story. I'm gonna tell on him, but he drills gas wells. He's what they call the tool pusher. He's like in charge of the derrick, And they was working in Pennsylvania, and I think it was Pennsylvania, and there was a bear that they drove by at this dump every day, and he would stop at McDonald's and buy this bear a biscuit. And would throw this bear a biscuit, and he gradually kept getting closer and closer and closer to the bear. And my stepbrother, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. He's a former Marine also. And he said, I decided one day I was going to hand feed that bear that biscuit. And he said, I got close to that bear. And he said, I stuck that biscuit out. And he said, man, that thing growled at me. And he said, that was the end of the biscuits for the bear.
Yeah. When you talk about habituation, I mean, I still believe that the animal is not by nature aggressive. Let me preface that. I think it depends on the age of the animal. But when you're talking about feeding an animal and it becomes dependent upon it, the anger is not, I don't think, out of aggression. I think it's out of survival. So survival in animals is completely different than humans. And I don't think it would be an aggressive type of situation. I think it would just be out of the fact, self-preservation. They want to survive, and they will do what it takes to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the guy's name, but I think they called him was he the Grizzly Whisperer or something like that? He was up in Alaska, and he said the grizzly bears wouldn't, mess with him and things like that. And him and his girlfriend eventually were both killed and eaten by a bear. That's, no matter what you think, and there's a lot of stuff out there. People say, oh, well, it's more human than it is animal and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter, what it is. It's out there in the wild, and it's dependent upon its own survival. And when it comes to survival, you are on the menu.
Yep. Let me tell you. So right here in this community that I'm in, up here by Shenandoah National Park, I had one of the neighbors text me the other day, and we're having bear problems here. I mean, we're seeing bear on a daily basis, and we know why. We know why. I'm not going to go into it because some of the neighbors probably are listening to this show. But I put up some information about, how to deal with bears. And the one thing is, don't be setting your trash in the bags outside in your yard, you can't do that because they're going to keep coming back. And what happens is eventually the bears stop being afraid of humans.
Mm-hmm.
You can leave a light on, they don't care. They'll come right up and still take the trash. You can go out on the porch and say, hey, bear, get out of here, and they'll just look at you. Eventually, what'll happen is what happened to one of my neighbors up here, where the bear just simply ripped the window out and went in her house.
Mm. Wow.
And she didn't even have food in there. It didn't matter. That bear was wanting food, and it just went right through the window. And that's what happens. So,
Virginia's getting a good population of bears built back up. Like here in the mountains where I live at, we're getting a good population. My aunt actually tripped over a bear walking down her steps a couple of years ago.
Told me.
But the story is she had it was seed corn sitting on the porch, I think, and the bear had come up there and it got into the seed corn and she heard it out there. And my aunt's a mountain woman for real. And anyway, she opened the door up and the bear had its head stuck down in the bag eating the seed corn, and she just reached out there and smacked the bear on the tail end and run the bear off. And later on that morning, I think it's about 4:30 in the morning, she was leaving to go see her granddaughter in Missouri, and on her way down the steps, she tripped over the bear as it was coming back up the steps.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's one for you, Gary, you and Melissa. I want you to envision this. So we had set the trash out in the cans on trash day. We wait until daylight before we set them out. Well, the bear came along and had one of the trash cans down. Do you want to know who went out there and ran it off?
Janine. I knew it.
She was within 30 feet. Kind of go away, throwing her hands up. And he just kind of looked at her, and he just slowly walked away. He wasn't in no rush. He just slowly walked away.
I can see that. That's a scary woman. You got a tough life there.
Oh, man. Well, the hour is up, guys. Could you believe it?
Wow, that's fast.
It's fast.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Melissa.
Well, not a problem.
And if you guys don't mind just hanging on here a few minutes, I'll close out the show, and then we'll chat just a little bit before we shut it all down.
Sure.
So I want to thank everybody for coming on. We had quite a few in here. We want to thank Mick for coming on. Got Jay in there. Kelly, good to see you.
Amen.
Let's see. JC, good to see you. Pete Wilson, even though he's probably got bad cell service.
I wonder what season.
Look, Buttworm said something earlier. I was not even going to attempt to put it up on the screen because I know that I would get in trouble because I have a funny feeling I know what he was talking about. And he's trying to get me in trouble, you see, because he said that he didn't have a sighting of Bigfoot, but something else in the bathroom. And I ain't going there.
Oh.
I ain't going there.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Cassie's one of your family members.
Yeah, it's my sister-in-law.
Gary, okay. And let's see. Who else do we have in there? I thought I saw somebody else pop in. All right. I think I called everybody. If I didn't, I apologize. But anyway, it was good to, yeah. All right. My cell phone. All right. Here we go. What's that say? Cell phone. Yeah, your typing skills ain't too great either there, Pete. You didn't fall asleep at the wheel, did you?
Sleepy Pete.
What do you mean? Wait a minute. What do you mean you're at lunch? It's 10 o'clock at night.
Come on, Pete.
Oh, man. All right.
If I can't, Billy, I'm going to holler out Maddox and Emmy. Uncle Gary loves y'all. Keep it squatchy.
Yep, keep it squatchy. All right, everybody. We'll be back 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern next Monday night. We'll have another guest. Actually, we're bringing Henry Bay back. We're going to try it again. Last time Henry was in the middle of the storm, we couldn't hear him. So going to bring him back on. So until then, everybody, have a great night, and we will see you soon.
All right, everybody.